Torture test time. I've done this video before with, I believe I did Jackson, I've done GLD, and I think that's pretty much it. So today we're gonna try out an Aporro chain that's gold plated on a brass base and see how many licks does it take till we start getting exposed base metal. Now, what does this torture test prove? Not much. It kind of shows the layers of gold plating that they may have used on this particular product and the longevity as far as you wearing it on your neck. Because obviously when you sweat, you perspirate, it's salty, it's just gooey and gunky and shit. And over time, it will eat through a certain amount of plating. Now, I'm using something way more abrasive than your actual neck sweat or the 17 hot dog rolls you may be chilling back there. So, roll my motherfucking music so we can see how many swipes it takes to get down to bare metal with an Aporro brass chain.
I'm kind of a big deal.
Blessed morning, my beautiful peoples. You know who it is. It's your boy, C to the U to the B to the A. So we're gonna be jumping right into it. I have an Aporro gold-plated brass chain. I believe it's from their Wong line. A couple of years back, they did a line, the Year of the Dragon. I believe it's the Wong one, if I'm not mistaken. I didn't look up any more information on it. And one of the things I've always liked about Aporro brand is that they do very unique pieces with some really impressive setting and design work. So there was always something that separated them from a lot of people was the stone setting and design work. A lot of people were just gluing shit together. They were doing a lot of hand intricacies, but for a long time they did a lot of brass and stainless steel base metals, which is something that I don't frown upon, but it's not particularly my cup of tea at this point. But what was conflicting was that some of the artistic work that they were putting in was really cool and very different. So it's kind of that balance, like, ugh, do I want to do this base metal of brass and stainless steel when I like sterling silver with gold plating or whatever the case may be? So it's kind of that catch-22, like, I don't know how I want to feel. But in this particular case, that's the example that we're going to be using today. Let's check it out. Now, here is the Wong chain that we're going to be jacking up today. Now, this is the design that I was talking about. They really did cool dragon scale kind of intricacies here with CZ stones that really show the detail kind of work that they put into this kind of piece. It has that sleek lock with, I don't know what this means, to be honest with you. They have the stone setting here. They have the stone setting in here. Very nice chain. Very cool, very unique. Only this was a choker style that I never really wore. I don't personally rock choker style chains. They just don't look good on me. And this is extra plated, as you can tell by that cheddar cheesy style tone, but we don't know how many layers yellow plating are on here. So we see here that it's gotten a little bit of wear and tear from videos and me putting it with other jewelry pieces that has gotten slightly scuffed, but there definitely is no abuse on this chain. As you can see here, the gold plating is still very uniform and like new condition. So the way we're gonna be jacking this up today is with some 220 grit sandpaper. Now this is ridiculously abrasive compared to obviously neck sweat and the wear and tear of you wearing this on a daily basis. So this is just to see how long it's gonna take us with actual sandpaper to get down to the base metal. Now, one of the more impressive lines was Shop GLD. When I hit that with sandpaper, it took a significant amount of torture actually to get down to the base metal. So it was quite impressive what Shop GLD did. Jackson as well, but it didn't do as well as Shop GLD did on that torture test. Now we're gonna get to see how the Aporro chain is gonna do. So without further ado, you'll obviously get to see on this black platform of some gold flaking coming off, and let's be honest, it's gonna come off and fairly quick, I believe. I mean, it's sandpaper, it's not your neck. So if these chains can last with something this abrasive, I'm not gonna use obviously the rotor tool with this, I'm just gonna do it by hand, then you know that on your neck, it's gonna last a significant amount of time. Compared to this, unless the back of your neck is gritty like sandpaper and the sweat smells like sweaty Central Park hot dog water, then I don't think you should have any issues. This is fairly new sandpaper. As you can hear, there's still a good amount of abrasion on this. So we're gonna start off, I guess, on the lock. And I'm not gonna go full-blown scraping. We're just gonna take some time and see how many layers it may potentially take. If it's lasting a little longer, maybe I'll kick it up a notch. But let's get right into it, shall we? So we can start to see already that there's some abrasion right there. Couple of scratches there. Definitely you can see them. Couple couple of scratches there. You could definitely start to see the abrasion and the scratches right on the chain. Clearly you can hear I'm doing it with a decent amount of pressure, but not heavy. There's no exposed base metal at this time, but you can clearly see the scratches on this joint. Let's keep going. Okay, let's tap this out. And I do see some exposed base metal already, but let's take a look. Yeah, you see some exposed metal right over here. And that was me going back and forth a decent amount of time, going a little quicker than it normally would be. So just take that into consideration, right? So let's keep going. Let's try now on some links here. Let me try to keep this a little bit more stable here. Let me actually open this up so I can keep it flat and then do it with a good amount of even pressure. Okay, there are some scratches, no exposed metal. And once again, what this is showing is that with 220 grit sandpaper and those couple of abrasions, that's not gonna compare to your neck. So we're dealing with something that has a nice amount of gold plating on top of it, but let's keep going. All right, let's wipe it off real quick so we don't have any excess. Not too much here, but let's look at the actual chain. So you can definitely see the scratches, but it's not base metal yet. There's a little bit here of base metal, but it's hard to tell. Kind of more on these inner edges where the base metal is showing a little bit, but not horrible actually. Now let's go a little bit more aggressive. Okay, let me wipe off. Actually, listen, not as bad as I anticipated. You can see here some of the edges here, the exposed metal, but with 220 grit sandpaper, and I'll give you up close shot so you can see as well, it's definitely taken a beating, and there is some exposed base metal. Literally not as bad as I anticipated. So let's go back to the box lock and let's see how many swipes it's gonna take us to get down to the base metal. Swipe this off. And here we're getting down to base metal. And even so, with all this aggressive ass sandpaper on it, it's still managing to hold up. Once again, I'm not going, because that would just defeat the whole purpose. It's not a realistic torture test, just like this isn't a realistic one. But this is just giving you an example of showing you that these gold-plated pieces, even though they're brass base, can take a beating. I know a lot of people complain about the longevity and how they fade so quickly and all that. I'm using 220 grit sandpaper. Like, you're telling me your neck is the equivalent of sandpaper? You need to see a dermatologist immediately. Is the quality consistent throughout all these pieces? I doubt it. Who knows? There's no such thing as perfect when it comes to any of these brands. But it's just a small test to give you an example that with over 15 swipes or something of 220 grit sandpaper, this is what we're getting. And with 5 or 6 or 7 swipes we've done here. Let's go back in here and we'll do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 swipes. Let's keep going. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Swipe off. Not too bad at all. It's not as bad as I thought. This 220 grit sandpaper, and I gave it a decent amount of beating for what it is. Here's down here where the links would be scratched. And it's almost comparable to the Shop GLD one. This is definitely still cheddar cheesy yellow. Is it wearable? Nah, not really. But at least this gives you guys a perspective of how these gold platings can potentially last on your neck versus 220 grit sandpaper. Love y'all motherfuckers from the heart. Let me know what you guys think and I'll see y'all bitches next time. You know who it is. Biggest in the game. Smooches.
CUBAKNOW, what's fresh, who's best, one of them's gonna pass the test.
For the fly gun holder, money folder, molar roller, start attack when it's time to call back. For the rough, rugged, and raw way, this nigga Jay, it's a game, but he don't play. Hey, for all the chicks that got dead in the penthouse suite on top of my mom's crib. It's nonsense, you never get in. It's nonsense that you would think that you would.